Do not try to tell me what to do. I innocently caught my wife engaging in some form of a relationship. This is still undetermined. A few months ago, I ended up needing to get into her email for something and I found pics and conversations with her coworker. She had disguised this person's contact info under a female friend. Anyway, the emails contained pictures of the guy with dirty text to go with it. I noticed they said love in their messages. After skimming through a few emails, I decided to confront her about the whole thing. I asked her who this was, what it was about, how long, etc. after multiple attempts to get the truth out of her. Eventually I came upon a series of questions that got her to reveal that there was a physical aspect to their relationship. Being that it happened at work, she said there was never time for anything but some kissing, making out. Whatever. I am very wary of her words and the truth they hold. I'm having a hard time believing her and trusting her. I travel quite often for work, sometimes the entire work week. During some of these times she had sent some pictures to him that were not platonic, but weren't on the same level as his. I should have taken her phone and read the entire history of emails. I did not. Instead, I let her have this choice and she chose to delete all of it. She said she thought it would have been harder to get out of my mind and I would be thinking about it all the time. After this I went through her phone camera and found the previously mentioned pictures that I had never seen prior to finding out about this. Our marriage is not and wasn't very good. We struggle to communicate effectively and bonding is a constant issue. There are other issues too. Our best strategy to successfully live together is to ignore what we can and distract ourselves from the rest. I feel like we experience 5% of the goodness that can exist in marriage. Currently we are seeing a counselor with the intent of making it work, but it's hard for me to see much happening. But I'm trying to have a neutral attitude. What steps can I take to help make this work? Do I need to draw some hard lines that I did not put in place months ago? I do not want to live through another 2 years of this and find out we're no better off. That is a waste of life. The first thing we brought up in counseling was the affair. The first question being, can we make it work? We have homework, but the goals are not really established. We do not really converse about much very well, to be honest. What you said about not reading each other's minds is accurate. We are 5 years in, no kids. I made a mistake in letting her delete those, no question about it now. She said she sent him an email and tried to call him. I physically encountered him at the gym and confronted him. He lied to my face, impressive, too, and acted like he had no idea what was going on. His girlfriend may have been nearby. I do not know how to contact him or her. I wanted to ask him about the whole situation and see if he would give a different story. Most of her computer activity is from her iPhone. I have not requested pins, passwords to her email and phone. Should I do this? We are trying to improve our marriage. In our minds we both say we want to make it work. We will see what happens as time rolls on. The tangible evidence has been deleted. I will have to rely on my wife to tell me how to get in contact with him. I have told my parents and a few close friends during my 1 to 3 day what the hell moments. I have had no reason to suspect any further contact. They both changed jobs, unrelated to this. Theoretically they could run into each other at the gym like he and I did. I will get her email and phone access tonight. I will see what kind of cooperation she will provide about the NC letter and contacting us. So, the marriage not working is a very real possibility. No question. Update. I have been digging through her iPhone files and it got me thinking about something I have not looked at yet. Cell phone provider call history. This led me to discover his cell phone number. I verified this by calling it from Google Voice. It went straight to voicemail and it was him. After I have his cell number, I cross-referenced it to the voicemail database from the iPhone. This led me down a path to find some voicemails from the OM that cover dates from February to June, and I know it was up until I caught her. Anyway, her call history doesn't seem to have overwhelming patterns outside of they usually speak when she's in the car, to from work, or lunch. I have purchased a VAR and plan on putting that to use ASAP. I am considering buying another for the bedroom and maybe purchasing a security camera. She has spoken with him about once a week, sometimes more but not significantly since I discovered all of this mess. I demanded no contact, no letter. When I first found out, she claims she sent him an email and tried calling to tell him that was it. Apparently, it was not. Do I need to pursue further evidence? I really want to know the truth about their relationship. I have felt she's been excluding key information the entire time. What steps do I need to take to be prepared for separation, divorce? I live in VA. Can I do this without lawyers involved? If I do need a lawyer, they need proof of infidelity. We have no kids and not a lot of wealth. Comments. Your detective work is obsessive. If you feel like you must do all of this monitoring, I can't see what the point is. You have all the information you need to make a decision about the future of your relationship, and all your digging and spying is doing is delaying your taking the proper action. OP responds, maybe I am just that insecure about the whole thing. I want to believe her in some sense, but maybe that is just my jacked up state of being right now. Damn it, this is hard to really accept. I called an attorney for some information, so we will see how it goes. I will not have a good opportunity to confront her until Monday. I am going to seek legal counsel. Once I have that and a plan in place, I am going to confront her. What a mess. Days later. Update. I went to an initial consult with a lawyer and got my head on straight as far as the expectations for separation and ultimately divorce. I went home and told her we are separated. We talked a good bit and she eventually fully admitted that she's been lying the entire time and her EA was actually a PA. Imagine that, which I later find out was 5 months. I tell her we are done. I leave for the weekend. I return on Sunday evening and some friends want to meet with me to talk about the events. Drama. Meltdown. They tell me she has completely broken down to ground zero and is wide open with everything. I am not sure if I believe them, but it gives me hope that something might actually be different inside of her. The main takeaway from their conversation for me were: 1. I cannot make good decisions when I'm not right with God. I'm not and haven't been for a while. And 2. This is the first real challenge of my faith in my life. With that being said, I went home and got a shower. When I got out, she was downstairs doing something and we started talking. She did not expect me to even listen to her, let alone carry on a conversation. She told me everything I asked of her and explained what has happened to her. One of our friends is a counselor and my wife spent a good bit of time with her while I was gone over the weekend. I feel like this has helped give her some good expectations if I felt like giving this another goes. To make a long story short, I felt very strongly that this is a real and raw state she is in. And I felt like that transparency was enough, combined with number 2 above, to give our marriage another shot. So, we are trying to make it work. We have our first counseling session tonight where she has to lay it all out for our MC, who she also lied to. I am at the point now where I've told her that she must sever all contact with OM. She agrees. Great. If I write the NC letter as mentioned earlier in this thread, how do we deliver it? Neither of us know his address. I know his cell phone number, however. How do I prevent him from contacting her at work? He has done this once. There is no caller ID or anything to screen the call. I have made the expectations very clear. Any future contact will prompt immediate separation. Divorce procedure. She has unlocked her phone and says she will provide FB Gmail account information to me tonight. As mentioned before, I travel a decent bit. Of the times they were together, most of the time were when I was away. What other steps do I need to put in place to protect myself? I feel pretty good when we are around one another. But I am due to travel next week and I'm sure I will have time periods of pain, doubt and feelings of insecurity. What else should I do? I am doing okay with the emotional side of this for the most part. I feel very connected to my wife for the first time in years. She has admitted she has been hiding from me, herself and pretty much everyone, which led to isolating me and making our marriage stagnant and sometimes miserable. I see her actively trying for the first time, maybe ever. Is she just trying to make up for a huge mistake? How do I know it is for real? I struggle with images and the decisions she has made just like anyone would, but my anger seems in check. I need a reality check. Am I asking for round 2 depending on your perspective? Is it okay to feel close to her? Can she possibly be manipulating me? I can't imagine this being anything but genuine at this point, but look where I am. I have met OM. He has a girlfriend. My wife says he's crazy and doesn't want me confronting him. I did confront him the previous time I saw him after D-Day and he lied to my face. She seems intimidated by him and his violent past history. I told her I want to expose this to his girlfriend and she told me that he has a history of shenanigan and it is probably a waste of time. Should I pursue this either way? I already let her delete the emails back in July. Obviously a mistake. She told me if I would have read them that I would have found out it was a PA then instead of last week. I bought one VAR, but I was not sure if I should still use it. I am checking her phone records. I guess the laptop is about the last option for contacting him unless she purchases some other way or uses a work phone. She has not told her friends at work. That would be one other means of accountability. Is that worth exploring? 1. The last time they were together was in mid-August, but she has physically seen him in person and spoken on the phone since. 2. Why it ended would probably be because she was caught and I am threatening to leave. 3. I do not win, if I'm really honest about it. I guess I better deploy the VAR. She claimed they met up 5 times over 5 months and I traveled half the time during the first half of the year. Met and chilled in parking lots. She seems so genuine now. I do not know how to verify any of this. We went to the counseling session together tonight. The counselor had a vibe but was pretty blown away by it all and her confessing. She has agreed to write an NC letter. She gave me her login info for Gmail and FB. She agreed to only go to the gym with me. I confronted her about location and frequency. It seems she streamlined the truth a bit about both. She said she just gave me a number when I asked her about the frequency. She said it happened more than 5 times but not many. Apparently, this guy was not right and she said she expected them to hook up a lot more than they did. I asked her if she ever came to our house with him and she said no. I ended up getting her to admit that they did go to his place once. According to her, he is paranoid of being caught by his GF or by my neighbors. This seems sketchy to me still. but I wanted to see what you guys thought. The guy is a lot older than my wife, 15 years, and I have a very attractive wife. If it were me, I'd be trying to tap that at every opportunity. Anyway, if I were paranoid, it seems the last spot you would want to be chill is in a ducking SUV in a grocery store parking lot. Some of the details I specifically asked and she told me about were not true. She claimed she was trying to shield me from some of the details. Should I demand a polygraph? I talked with her again this morning and told her things still are not sitting right and I think she's lying. She admitted to not using condoms every time and that they came to our house once. I am really starting to lose my mind now. She has identified that her fear and uncertainty bring her back to that comfortable place. Deception. I think I am still in serious denial, but cogent and staying rational about my gut feelings and her deception. I do not know how to merge the two. I certainly do not know how to manage my thoughts or emotions about what she has done to me. My default is to throw up a brick wall and ignore. I mentioned the poly this morning prior to her admitting those 2 lies above, and she acted a little weird but said if that is what I want. I do not know if this compelled her to tell me more of the truth or what. We are going to get tested for STDs just as a precaution. I think tonight is the night for all truths or separation. We just talked and they were in my bed and on my couch. Earlier today I dragged my couch out into the lawn. I just found out about my bed. Supposedly this was the last thing she was hiding from me. I don't really know what other things I would care about, but she's lied to me and to our counselor twice. She's lied about 10 times to me. She told me about some other crap from her past. I want to burn the mattress. She told me not to bother with the polygraph and she would stop holding this last bit back. I cannot trust her. I am starting to get angry but trying not to show it. Does this mean I am pretty much at the point where I need to separate again? I feel like I am walking around at night lost in the woods with nails in my eyes. I do not know how to evaluate whether I can get beyond her betrayal and lying. I can forgive her. Is this it? My parents are coming into town this weekend. I do not know what the poly will accomplish at this point. I think I have the information now. I am just too much of a doormat to go forward. I cannot go in that bedroom. Weeks later, wife and I are going to attempt reconciliation. What demands and or protective steps should I take as such moving forward? Here are my thoughts. 1. Sell or rent the house, prefer to sell it. Move away from current area. 2. Sell her vehicle and replace it with something else with the money she gets from the sale. 3. Continue counseling wherever we are. 4. Try with our individual relationships with God. 5. Be connected, transparent and, or be able to talk about why we are or are not connected. 6. Not be mediocre, miserable. 7. Start our relationship over in a lot of ways. 8. No consideration of children for at least 3 years. Maybe more. I'm thinking about getting snipped in the meantime. These are reversible from what I understand. I do not want kids until our relationship is something worth keeping. Number 6 is more of a reflection that will take place at time intervals in the future. If we are miserable a year from now, I will not stick with it. What else should I demand? I am perfectly fine with demanding something that is obviously there for my protection. Should I consider a post-nup or contract if she screws up? I have made it very clear that any future mistakes in this realm will not be a question. I already have my decision made. This is her last chance. I know we have a ton of work to do. I am not going to blindly pretend that it will work. There is a chance if we both put the effort in. I am at the point now where I have nothing left to lose but time, and I think it is worth the risk of wasting another 6 months to give her a chance to prove that she has and will continue to change. One thing I have realized over our short sine wave: if I am not spending any time with her, there is no way it will ever work. You cannot actively do anything by yourself in a marriage. That ended up being longer than I wanted. Oh yeah, I found the OM's GF last week and told her. Update: we've been trying to reconcile for about 2 months now, I guess. A bit more. We are still seeing a counselor regularly. It was once a week, now it's once every other week. Things have been okay. Good. 1. We are communicating more and better, or at least realizing and able to talk about when we are not communicating well. 2. Bonding is better and more often, but still not meeting my needs. 3. We are spending more time together. I haven't been traveling much for work. 4. She hasn't spoken with OM. 5. She seems interested in being married to me. 6. She has been transparent with everything I have asked. Neutral. Bad. 1. She has a hidden email address that she claims she cannot remember. Access that she used to send pics and communicate with OM. 2. The newness of reconciling seems to have worn off and we are creeping back to our old patterns and ways. I worry about us defaulting to our comfort, laziness, and our relationship becoming stagnant again. 3. Right now I feel like there is no way I can have kids with her. I have not communicated this. 4. If we move from our current area, we will lose 30,000 or so. Maybe more. If we sell her vehicle, we will probably lose at least 2,000. Maybe more. 5. I feel insecure about our relationship, bonding, and our future if I'm honest with myself. We live a mile or so from where WW and OM would meet and or chill. Every time I leave the house, I get a friendly reminder of this unless I am distracted. On a phone call. My bad. Number 3 might be a deal breaker for her. She has sat down with me in front of the computer trying to remember her username and password. She claims she made something up and left it up in Safari on her iPhone. Something I cannot verify via iPhone backups. She claims she did not actively check it on any computer and didn't have to have a backup email address to create the email account. She is really trying to say I don't remember the login info because I never had to use it. Seems suspect, but I've created email addresses that I've forgotten the info on, too. I do not know of any other way to find out what it is without the help of OM or his GF. What do I do? Is she just lying to me? I am in contact with OM's GF. We both think they are not in contact right now. As far as the kid's statement goes, I do not know if I should withhold this for now or if I should go ahead and drop that bomb. I am not saying it can't change in the future. But right now there is no way. She got tested. I did not. She was clean. She isn't claiming to have forgotten the password. She is claiming to not know her username for the other email account. I do not know what she would have said and how she would have reacted had the roles had been reversed. It does not feel great, but she claims to have changed. I am trying to give her an opportunity to demonstrate these changes. I have been bothered by this whole affair thing, but for the most part I've stayed fairly numb and emotionally calm. I feel like I should be angry, but I am not. Does this come later? I am not a super emotional person, but anger is one thing I've had in the past. Not so much since I have been an adult. I do not feel like I can be completely honest with FWW with my raw feelings. Emotions, thoughts, concerns. Part of our past communication struggles have been my phrasing or presentation of what I want to say, not the actual content. I feel like this is another opportunity to do the exact same thing. Weeks later, I do not feel like I can be 100% committed right now. I do not feel like it is worth the effort. The love I have for my wife is a commitment, not a feeling for me. We communicate poorly and have not made much progress in 3 months. I feel like the only way I can handle trying to R is by avoiding my damage, hurt, pain, which I think is one of the worst ways to cope. Whenever I directly think about what she has done and go there, I do not want to be with her. I have really been trying to be gracious with her about this opportunity to show me she wants to be married and is willing to do the heavy lifting. She has done some lifting, but no one wants to seem to grab anything heavy. I haven't told her or the counselor. She's always there, what I just shared. I am not sure I can even get past all of this. Here's a quote from another thread that really captured me. I could never get over the mental images of my wife sleeping with another man and her coming home to me like nothing happened. If I try to tell her my feelings like I said above, I'm sure it will spiral into disaster talk. Which might be fine if that's where it needs to go. But I'm not sure yet. She is my trigger in a lot of ways. My house is a trigger. Her vehicle is a trigger. The gym down the street is a trigger. The grocery store across from the gym is a trigger. I just try to compartmentalize and move on. Sometimes I can, sometimes I cannot. The counselor told us that the only way we can make this work is by being around each other. I understand what you are saying though. How can I ever be real when I am constantly around her and that trigger? Not sure. Is this all just false R or unintended rug sweeping by me? I did not know how to react, so I just sucked it all in and tried to protect her and myself. The longer I think about this, the more I feel like our marriage is over. Months later, since then, we have decided to relocate for a few reasons, but mostly because I do not want to be in this defiled house any longer. We put the house up for sale about 2 months ago and we got it under contract about 6 weeks after listing. She traveled with me on a business training trip for a week and took non-paid time off to do so. We are moving in about a month. As far as our marriage goes, we have not really changed much. I'm not sure there were any real consequences for her outside of ending the affair, which I'm quite confident is over now. We spend a decent amount of time hanging out together, but we don't seem to talk about anything real or important 99% of the time when I know there are things we are both thinking. I have been realizing more and more, lately, that I prefer to ignore and distract myself instead of facing the reality of the situation. I feel like I am afraid to rock the boat right now with all of the transitions going on. New place, new area, new job for her, and being busy at work. We seem to avoid all topics that could potentially be iffy, uncomfortable. Our plan after quitting MC was to work through the Torn Asunder workbook together. We have done this for about 2 months and have recently not made much progress with all the house crap and travel demanding time. I see a few problems. 1. I prefer not to rock the boat or upset her by talking about our relationship realistically right now. I've tried to be reasonable and give it time and make sure I'm not rushing into any decisions that I might regret for the rest of my life. And keep her calm through the house sale and move. I am not sure what to tell her or how to make feasible metrics for identifying progress. I feel like it has been more of the same with her not taking full ownership of this. I have seen her change a bit, but not in any discernible way outside of a little more interest in me. Overall patterns are not really much different. We do not treat each other much differently. Our communication did not magically change. I guess I trust her a bit more than 6 months ago. but I have no compelling reason to think that it could not happen again. I am finding myself not as attracted to her. 2. She seems to think, or at least not communicate otherwise, everything is okay and progressing as it should. My plan is to move, get settled and give the situation a few months to level out. I plan on reevaluating in August or so. I think I need to abandon this idea I have that time will help my vision. If I looked at my time between affair and now as dating, there is no way I would choose to be married. Is that a fair way to look at it? I need someone objective to tell me I am going crazy. 1. NC is in effect and has not been broken to my knowledge. She sent a letter. 2. Somewhat questionable from my perspective. 3. She has done everything I have asked. I found her bonus email account after D-Day, but she told me it existed and could not remember the login. There is consistency of her email conversations to text conversations over time was good. I have no reason to believe that she is hiding anything from me with that email address. 4. I do not think she is lying to me anymore. She is just not saying much. I am not sure we are in true R. Nope. Seems like cruise control. Comments. Every choice you make has a price. If you choose to ignore and avoid, the likely cost here is going to be losing your marriage. If you choose to face your demons and face reality, the likely cost will be a brief time of discomfort and scariness, but the chances of saving your marriage increase dramatically. It is up to you, but just be honest. If you continue as you are, I can pretty much guarantee the cost will be painful and harder than you think. You are not really avoiding pain by choosing to ignore and avoid, you're just procrastinating it. On the other hand, if you choose to face it, yep, there will be some pain initially, but that will give way to a real chance to build either your marriage or yourself into something pain-free. Number 1. Time to rock the boat. Now, not after you have moved and waited several more months and done nothing. Now, number 2. If you want change, start by changing you. See, a relationship is like a bridge between two islands. You thought your two islands were side by side and built your bridge based on that assumption. But she moved her island by having her affair, and the bridge broke. Okay, she moved her island back to side by side and now is starting to build a bridge like that again. But you keep saying, no, I want a new bridge, a different bridge, but you keep your island right where it is. If you move your island, like move it up a little and to the right, she will have to build something different. But the change starts with you. You must rock the boat. You must stop avoiding. Weeks later, OP responds. I helped a couple we have known the last 5 or so years move right around the same time as we were packing up. This couple has a few small kids and another on the way. By being around some kids in a somewhat analogous, but not nearly as screwed up, relationship, I've realized I can't have a family with my wife. There is no future. It is time to move on. With that being said, it is time to end this. Can I have this conversation and communicate that our marriage is over and she must move out without destroying her? If not, what is the simplest and cleanest way to go about it? Half a year later, I have had enough and told her I can't stay with the marriage. She does not work full-time and hasn't over the past few years, but her earning potential if she did work full-time is 85% of mine. As it stands right now, her current hours yield 70% off my income. Anyway, we have finally started talking about money. She says she is going to ask me for alimony despite her being the cheating spouse. The lawyer I spoke with said something like, since you took her back and tried to make it work, this could be seen as condoning her actions, which means I have a financial obligated to her. I think this is ridiculous. I am being penalized for trying to make my marriage work. I am an NC, which requires 1 year separation before divorcing, and there are no hard-written rules about alimony expectations. We do not have a ton of assets, so I would imagine we would blow way more money on lawyers if we decided to let a judge decide it. Is this accurate? Can anyone steer me the right way? She told me that she expects her standard of living to remain the same, which I do not see how it can. We are dividing our assets and income. How would you expect a similar level of savings, spending, and so forth when you double the bills? Anyone care to chime in? I need to figure out what is reasonable. I am not trying to short her. I just don't think she should get any of my income, in an effort to try to minimize our lawyer costs. I told her that I am okay with her hiring a lawyer to draft a separation agreement and me paying a lawyer much less to review it with me. I guess that could end up being more money than I expect. Is there a fair but less costly way to approach this? My comment, I feel like in the end, she stopped lying because she could not say much anymore. She knew she lost the trust from her husband, and she still wants everything to be back to normal after the divorce. A classic cake eater. Comment down below. Have you met a cake eater in your life?
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. "Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay?" I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. "Yes, I'm inviting my father." "That's great. I might invite my parents too." I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.